Hello and welcome to Active Bryant Fitness Systems, and this video is all about fighting. Did you watch the big fight at the weekend with AJ and Francis Ngannou? I thought it was a brilliant fight, and I want to talk about the fight and how size doesn't really matter in a fight. It's about skill, technique, and how calm you stay. So I've was a doorman for 14 years in the West End. This is 23 years ago. So I worked Bagley's Ministry of Sound, the Zoo Bar, Tiger, Oxygen, Heaven nightclub. Where else did I work? I worked in Epping Country Club. So I worked all over doorman wise after doing it for 14 years. And there's many things that I learned while doing that job. One, never second guess somebody. Two, you've always got to keep calm. And when I was at work, I didn't really switch off. And what I mean by that is I used to see other doormen like dancing around, having a drink and chatting up the birds, which is okay, but you're taking your mindset off of what's going on around you. And this is when you can get bottled, stabbed, or attacked in a nightclub or bar. And you're only as strong or as good as the team that you work with. And one of the reasons why I left in 2000 and become a PT, personal trainer, is because I realised very early on that many of the guys that were coming through, the new guys that were coming through, weren't real fighters. They didn't have a background of lots of punch-ups. Now, when you get hit, your adrenaline is released and you either go into fighting mode, which I would, or you go into runaway mode, okay? And this is we're humanly designed, okay? So as me having lots of fights throughout my life, all of my life, I've always been one of these people that seems to wind people up quite easily and they want to hit me. So obviously at an early age, I learned very good self-defense. From about the age of 14, 15, I started hitting a heavy bag and been hitting bags all my life, heavy bags. So I know how to jab, I know how to uppercut, and I know how to do them things to defend myself. So going back to AJ and the big fight on Saturday night, is that one, you had Francis Ngannou and AJ, both in fantastic shape, but Ngannou was 20 pounds heavier than AJ. But I know I watched the build-up and could see the AJ's coach, Ben, is much better, more superior than the other guy's coach. So you could see with AJ working with Ben, they was working on following right through with the jab, going right through and hitting right through with all your weight and power. Whereas Ngannou's trainer, Francis's trainer, didn't seem to be doing that, didn't seem to be G'ing him up, didn't seem to be pushing. And really, they were boxing at 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, really, to box at 3 o'clock in the morning, you've got to change your sleep pattern, your circadian rhythms, in which to be in peak performance and obviously eat really well and not overtrain. So they said Francis Ngannou was doing lots of pad work for a few hours. So really burning himself out before he went in to do the 10 or 12 rounds, but it only lasted, was it one round or 2 rounds? I'll have to watch it again. So it's really important to know whether you're a fighter or not. Like I know that I've gone up against guys 3-4 times my size and managed to either talk them around if I'm in a dormant situation or pacify it and try and not get into a punch-up. Now, to me, that's a skill in itself to be able to talk your way out of trouble as well as do all that when you need to. Does that make sense? But hopefully you never have to do that on the street, because many guys, many tough guys, have hit somebody in rage or aggression, and that person falls on the floor, or they hit them so hard that they kill them, and then they end up doing 5 to 10 years in prison. And it just ain't worth, losing all your life just for that one split moment of ego and big boyish. Does that make sense? I never forget, I had a problem at the sports cafe in the Haymarket in central London, and had to refuse this guy, and he weren't having none of it. And all of a sudden this fist come through and hit the guy straight on the jaw, and the guy was on the floor. This was another doorman protecting me, which was a real nice compliment, which was really, really lovely. And that's what changed in the door world, is that a lot of the doormen were turning into bodies and not being able to do this and not being able to do that, or they can do this but can't do that. Does that make sense? But you need to be able to do that, and you need to be able to do this at the same time. So that's fundamentally important. Now, I've met some real tough guys over the years, and one thing real tough men have compared to weak men is that tough men do not go looking for trouble. Do not go looking for trouble, because they know what they're capable of. And the same with a guy that's on lots of steroids to a guy that's not on steroids like myself, is that I'm happy with my size. Does that make sense? If I gain a little bit more size in the next 10 years, being 53 would be great, but I know I've got to train hard in which to maintain my strength and my muscle mass at age 53. And at age 53, my deadlift is 160 kilo. My benching is 120, which I'm happy with. Bent over rowing, 80 kilo. So for me, as you get older, you get smarter, you get more mature. You're not looking to go out fighting anymore. You're looking to keep yourself fit, healthy and strong, and try and stay away from scenarios where you get yourself into a punch-up. Now, I've seen people that I've thrown out, and I'm ready for them to start or want to have a punch-up. But 90% of the time, I had a rule that I would only throw you out if you was a complete and utter cock. Does that make sense? And if I went up to you and went, mate, calm it down a bit, otherwise I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Okay, if you read up to me, you'll be out. But if you went, mate, I'm sorry, I'll calm it down, and I'll be watching you from the distance, and you did calm it down, you'd have a great night. Does that make sense? The same as if somebody come to me on the door and was aggressive to start off with, you're not coming in. But if you're polite and you're courteous, hello, mate, coming in for a drink, meeting my mates, or meeting my bird, or meeting somebody, yeah, of course you're going to go in. Does that make sense? So I had this rule that kept me safe. And I believe that if you have this rule, it will keep you safe. And the same with your training. If you keep training 4 days a week, every week, or have 2 weeks off every couple of weeks, so you let everything rest and grow and relax and improve, you will always keep improving as you age. Does that make sense? And the same with, I still do a little bit of shadow boxing. I still do some bag work. I'll never stop doing that because I want to stay sharp. Does that make sense? And I remember in the Sun newspaper, this was a while ago, somebody decided to rob this, I think he was 75 years old. They broke into his house and thought that they'd get away with it. He beat them to a pulp because he was an ex-middleweight boxer. So I believe even if you're aging like myself, age 53, you haven't got it, you haven't lost it, you've still got it. Does that make sense? You haven't lost it, you've still got it. As long as you keep it going, does that make sense? I've got a few friends of mine, a black belt in jiu-jitsu, another guy that's awesome with nunchucks and knife work, in their 60s, and they're still doing it. Does that make sense? And obviously, when you stop, it's still there. It never really goes, does it? I've got another friend that's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. No, sorry, a black belt in judo. And I thought to myself when I met him, you don't look that big. What can you really do? And I worked at this one club for 2 years. And it was about, what was it? Probably a year and a half into it that I see him lose his rag with somebody. A year and a half. And he threw this guy on the ground using judo. And I was like, that's fucking amazing. Now I know where you are. Does that make sense? Because I used to be a bit of a bit boisterous and a bit fiery when I was on the door. Because you got to be like that in some respect. You can't be a pussy. You can't really take any crap. Does that make sense? If you do, you're seen as weak and nobody will listen to you when you go, come on, it's time to leave. The bar's closed or whatever. Does that make sense? So with AJ, it's good to see him in phenomenal shape. Good to see him back on top form. Tyson Fury, when he went against Ngannou, it was like as if he didn't know what to do. It's like as if he didn't have a clue. I was quite shocked, considering what a technical boxer he is. But what I think has happened is that when he lost Ben, the coach, when he lost Ben, now AJ's got Ben, you can see the massive improvement in both of their technical boxing. Whereas now AJ's using... sorry, I've been fasting all day, so my brain's going a bit. See AJ using Ben, you can see his technical fighting has dramatically improved compared to what it was before. And then you'll see Tyson Fury, he's dropped right off because he got knocked out by Ngannou, Francis Ngannou. But Ngannou, great fighter. He's been, obviously in the MMA and he got to the top of that. Now he's going to try and get to the top of boxing, but after being hit by AJ, will he? Because that was punishment. And you see as he hit the ground, as he hit the canvas, his tongue come out and everything. I think we're quite lucky he's still alive. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, he hasn't got brain damage and that he can go higher and higher. And that's another thing you have to think about, that getting into fights is okay if it's fists. But when it's gloves, they say technically that the gloves cause more damage in the brain than what actual fists do. But obviously it's a boxing, border control and all that type of stuff. But bare knuckle boxing is better than glove boxing, apparently. So I really enjoyed the fight. And I've worked with James Ebola. James Ebola fought Mike Tyson. Unfortunately, James Ebola passed away. He was shot when he was in a club. I think it was in Brixton. He told somebody not to smoke a joint and they come back and shot him dead. And James Ebola was 6'6", 6'7". He was a ginormous guy. And when I worked with him, the front door with him at Zubar, he was really lovely, really easy to talk to, back you up 100%, and no judgment with him. Do you know what I mean? So I've met some real tasty guys on the door. So remember, not all doormen are pussies. Some of them are, and they're playing the game. They're doing it for their ego, and they think that they can have it. Like one of my friends got put on his ass a couple of times, and that's because he wasn't a real fighter. But for him to be on the door, to have the bottle to do that, I give him respect for that. Does that make sense? But when I come out of the doors, I went straight into being a PT, and I've been doing it ever since, and I absolutely love it. Especially when you see the result of the client improving, their pain going, their body fat dropping if they've got high body fat, or their personalities improve because their confidence comes back in themselves. Does that make sense? So I just want to say a big thank you to my sister for buying me this nice tight top for my birthday. She bought me about 5 and some tracky bottoms as well, which I want to say a big thank you to her. And want to say a big thank you to Rob Moore as well for being there and being a great guy. Check out Rob Moore's podcast. He wants to help everybody make a lot of money and change the mindset in England. Like many people in England, if you become successful, they think you're a drug dealer or they think you're a twat or whatever. Instead of in America, if you're successful, they all want to clap you and tell you how well you're doing and they want to help you more. Does that make sense? I'll never forget a little story. I was in San Diego, California, and I was near the military base, the Marine base there. And somebody took me down there and they told me to wait, and I started doing some Tai Chi, and these Marines walked past and saluted me. I couldn't believe it. It was like crazy. And then because I always wear tight tops when I'm out, people were commenting, and a couple of girls come and chatted to me. He had heard my accent because being British, they love that. And just the whole mentality in San Diego for somebody that's big and muscly is just all respect. Whereas in England, it's bring you down as much as you can, as much as they can. Does that make sense? So keep your self-defense up, keep your training up, never give up, and congratulations to AJ. And don't forget to check out Rob Moore's podcast. Absolutely brilliant. Speak to you again soon. Bye.